40 years ago, The Pale Rider shocked the world with its dark Western story and the legendary preacher of vengeance. But behind the scenes, the actors experienced tragedies no less dramatic than those on screen. Some died young due to drug addiction, others passed away quietly in unexpected accidents, and still others achieved more success than they could have imagined. Let's take a look at their surprising fate in 2025. You won't believe what really happened. Clint Eastwood as a pastor. At the age of 55, Clinton Eastwood Jr. He played the role of a pastor in the film Pale Rider, 1985, both as director and lead actor. The image of a quiet, stoic priest with deadly powers left a deep impression on the audience, making the film a turning point in his career. It was not only a role, but also a continuation of the heroic model of Westerns, in which Eastwood once again planted in the public's mind the disturbing themes of justice and revenge. Clint Eastwood was born on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, California. But behind the fame and glamour of his films was a difficult personal life. His marriages never ended amicably. His first wife, Maggie Johnson, lived with him for more than 3 decades, enduring repeated infidelities and constant rumors of infidelity. After a difficult divorce, Eastwood married a second time, to Dina Ruiz, but that marriage also fell apart in conflicts that reflected the turmoil in his inner life. The women who entered his life not only left scars, but also family problems and broken relationships. Eastwood had 8 children with different women, some of whom were not recognized until years later, tarnishing his family's image with controversy and suffering. In the public eye, he's a Hollywood legend, but behind the scenes, he's a broken heart and a family that never understood his true meaning. Clint Eastwood is 95 years old today. His career and personal life remain 2 opposing forces. One, an immortal Hollywood icon, the other a collection of irretrievable memories. His estimated net worth of $375 million reflects his success, but it cannot erase the psychological scars he has carried throughout his life. John Russell as Stockburn. At the age of 64, John Lawrence Russell played Stockburn in Rudder's Rider, 1985. A ruthless, cold, and unfeeling sheriff who terrorizes the town. This ominous role became the last milestone in his film career, turning the tall, stern-faced man into an unforgettable figure of the Western genre. But few people know that a dark and tragic life is hidden behind the glitter of the screen. John Russell was born on January 3, 1921, in Los Angeles, California. Although he was a true hero, decorated for his bravery on Guadalcanal, his private life never found peace. He was married twice. His first marriage lasted more than 20 years before it ended in fiasco, leaving 3 children to grow up amid the pain of a broken home. His second marriage lasted less than a year, torn apart by irreconcilable differences. After each divorce, Russell delved deeper into alcohol and drugs, addictions that destroyed him physically and mentally. He was arrested several times for drunk driving, becoming a shadow of his former self, a villain on screen and self-destructive in real life. These tragedies damaged his health, transforming him from a strong man into a weak and broken person. On January 19, 1991, John Russell died in Los Angeles of emphysema, the devastating effects of decades of smoking. He died at the age of 70, leaving a modest estate of approximately 500,000 jetons, mostly spent on medical expenses and a contested divorce. He was buried at Westwood Military Cemetery, next to his comrades. Richard Dysart, Coy Lee Hood. Richard Allen Dysart played Coy Lee Hood in The Pale Rider, 1985. A ruthless mining magnate, the embodiment of greed and destruction. at the age of 56. The character was not only a villain, but also a symbol of corrupt power, and Dysart's chilling performance both repulsed and fascinated the audience. The role marked the pinnacle of his late career, highlighting the depth of an actor known for supporting roles but always making a mark. Richard Dysart was born on March 30, 1929 in Boston Shores, Massachusetts. At first glance, he seemed like a quiet and gentle artist, but his personal life was filled with tragedy. He married 3 times, but his first 2 marriages failed. The women he swore to share his life with eventually died one by one, leaving a void that could never be filled. Loneliness became a shadow that haunted him everywhere. Because despite his fame and illustrious career, he never knew the feeling of a complete family. The pain was even greater when he had no biological children and could only help raise the children of his 3rd wife, the artist Catherine Jacobi. The constant pain of failed marriages left him in a constant state of tension, a fragile soul tormented by feelings of abandonment. At the same time, Dysart struggled with other internal struggles. He openly opposed the Vietnam War, a bold and risky stance that alienated many of his producers and collaborators. His once stable career was derailed by his commitment to peace. He lost several roles because he spoke publicly about what was going on. After earning Emmy-winning fame for his role in El Ba'a to Law, he endured years of rejection and deep despair. These ordeals, along with his addiction to smoking and drinking, took a serious toll on his health. Cancer eventually became his death sentence, leaving him in a long and painful battle with his own body. On April 5, 2015, Richard Dysart passed away at his home in Santa Monica, California, after a long and painful battle with cancer, at the age of 86. His net worth is estimated at $5 million, a modest sum considering his lifelong dedication to art. He died in the arms of his 3rd wife, leaving behind a quiet legacy of artistic achievement and personal tragedy forever intertwined. Michael Moriarty as Hull Barrett, at the age of 44, Michael Moriarty played Hull Barrett in The Pale Rider 1985, a kind but stubborn miner who dared to defy oppression to protect his town and gain a glimmer of hope. The role marked a turning point in his career, with audiences noting the stark contrast between his fragile appearance and his indomitable spirit, a character that largely reflected Moriarty's own troubled life. Michael Moriarty was born on April 5, 1941 in Detroit, Michigan. He grew up in a stable family. His father was a surgeon, and his mother a calm, understanding woman who wanted her son to succeed. However, marriage was the deepest wound in his life. Moriarty married 3 times in search of stability, but each marriage ended in failure. Alcohol and uncontrolled rage poisoned his relationships, driving away the women who once loved him, leaving only bitterness. He lost not only marital happiness, but custody of his children, who grew up far from the father they once admired. Each divorce pushed him into isolation and self-pity, bringing with it a pain that no punishment could erase. Alcoholism destroyed not only his family, but also his career. In the early 1990s, at the height of his fame as Ben Stone on Law and Order, alcoholism destabilized him. Colleagues recalled his slurred speech on set, glassy eyes, and frequent difficulty remembering sentences. The situation culminated when he publicly attacked Attorney General Janet Reno, accusing her of attempting to censor American television. He turned his fight against censorship into a personal crusade, which resulted in him being kicked out of the show that brought him fame. The Tony, Emmy, and Golden Globe winner is now remembered more for his odd behavior than his talent, a move that shocked and saddened the public. Michael Moriarty turns 84 today. He escaped the spotlight to live a quiet life in Canada, which he calls a political exile, away from the hustle and bustle of his homeland. His net worth is only around $3 million, a modest sum compared to his once illustrious career, which spanned acting, jazz, and books. Carrie Snodgrass as Sarah Wheeler. At the age of 40, Caroline Louise Carrie Snodgrass starred in The Pale Gold Gang, 1985, as Sarah Wheeler, a strong but wounded woman struggling with the hardships of mining life and her longing for freedom. Her role became the emotional core of the film, in which the audience saw tenderness and unwavering resilience. She is not just a movie character, but also a reflection of the real-life tragedies of Snodgrass, a once bright star who slowly faded into obscurity. Carrie Snodgrass was born on October 27, 1945 in Park Ridge, Illinois. She seemed on the verge of happiness when she met legendary musician Neil Young, but tragedy struck right there. In 1972, she gave birth to a son, Zeke, who was born with cerebral palsy. A young mother took on the burden of caring for her son during the storm of Neil Young's fame. Their relationship quickly fell apart and ended in bitterness, leaving Carrie heartbroken and depressed for years. With a broken family, a son struggling with illness, and a soul torn between duty and despair, it was the beginning of an endless series of tragedies. In the years that followed, Carrie found no solace in love. She began a relationship with musician Jack Nitch, but tragedy struck again. In a fit of jealousy, Nitch broke into her home, clubbed her, and threatened to kill her. The incident shocked Hollywood, making Carrie a symbol of female resilience, but it also left her in constant fear. Subsequent marriages and relationships were short-lived, leaving her alone in a dark room. As her career recovered, her health deteriorated. Depression, alcoholism, and liver disease gradually ravaged her. She continued to portray powerful characters on stage, but off-stage she was a broken woman. On April 1, 2004, Carrie Snodgrass died of heart failure in Los Angeles at the age of 58 while awaiting a liver transplant. At the time of her death, her net worth was only around $1 million, a modest amount considering her illustrious career. Sidney Penny as Megan Wheeler. Sidney Penny was born on August 7, 1971 in Nashville, Tennessee. At the age of 14, she played Megan Wheeler in the movie The Pale Rider, 1985. The role won her a Young Artist Award, but it also left her lonely and torn between the professional world of film and her frustrated childhood. Long shooting days, constant media attention, and public expectations threw Penny into a period of depression. She spent her childhood in Chatsworth, California, where she discovered her singing talent at the age of 3 in one of her father's shows. Growing up in a fun environment exposed Penny to enormous pressure. She had to adjust to the spotlight, learn to smile while hiding her loneliness. Her early television roles, such as Fearless, 1979, and The Thornbirds, 1983, brought her awards, but also immense emotional suffering. She suffered from a period of depression, feeling trapped between early fame and the stolen freedom of her childhood, and spent many nights in darkness and fear for company. As an adult, she married producer Robert Powers in 1995 and had a son. However, the pressures of work and her busy schedule often put a strain on the marriage, leading to brief separations to re-establish emotional balance. From childhood insecurities to difficulties in her career and personal life, all these challenges have shaped her resilience and strength that few people truly recognize. Sidney Penny, 54, now lives in Wilmington, North Carolina, where she continues her acting and producing career. Her net worth is estimated at $2 million. Her story proves that it is possible to balance career, family, and personal challenges in the glamour of Hollywood. Charles Hallahan as McGill. At the age of 42, Charles John Hallahan starred in the film Rudders and Bone, 1985. In the role of McGill, a brave miner who defied brutal oppression. His muscular build and determined gaze helped him portray a simple yet powerful character, leaving a deep impression despite his supporting role. By then, he had already established himself in Hollywood, but the turmoil in his personal life slowly eroded his health and spirit. Charles Hallahan was born on July 29, 1943 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was seemingly a dedicated actor, respected by his peers, but offstage, his life was marked by alcoholism. He married twice, but both marriages ended in divorce and bitterness. His first wife left him after 4 years of drinking and mood swings. His second wife tried to keep the family together, but eventually succumbed to her persistent drinking. Parties and empty bottles of wine not only destroyed family trust and comfort, but more importantly, their health. Alcohol gave way to heart disease, which he tried to ignore until it became his death sentence. Behind his powerful, broad-shouldered appearance was a weary soul, torn between his passion for acting and the quiet demons of his personal life. On November 25, 1997, Charles Hallahan died suddenly of a heart attack in Los Angeles at the age of 54. His net worth was approximately $800,000, a modest sum considering a life devoted to stage and screen. He was buried in Cove Harbor, Ireland, where the waves still echo with the doomed artist's farewell. Although he wasn't a star in the public eye, his roles as McGill in Rucks and Bone and Norris in The Thing proved that sometimes supporting roles can be just as memorable as the man himself. Chris Penn as Josh LaHood. Christopher Shannon Penn plays Josh LaHood, the rebellious and brash son of a mining magnate in Pale Rider, 1985, at the age of 20. His role revealed his impulsiveness and aggressiveness, but also the natural talent of a young actor eager to prove himself. This role served as a springboard for Penn to a string of box office hits in the 1180 SC, where he was considered one of Hollywood's most promising young talents. Chris Penn was born on October 10, 1965 in Los Angeles, California, into a family with a rich artistic tradition. His father, Leo Penn, was a director. His mother, Eileen Ryan, was an actress. And his brother, Sean Penn, was destined to become a movie legend. But while Sean made it to the top, Chris was plagued by comparisons, insecurities, and jealousy. As a teenager, he turned to drugs and alcohol, addictions that quickly destroyed his life. He has been arrested several times for drunk driving and drug possession. These bad decisions ruined his career and closed the door to great opportunities. Soon the name Chris Penn became synonymous with scandal rather than talent, and the young man disappeared. Chris Penn briefly returned to fame in the 1990s as Good Eddie in Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, 1992. But that was his last major triumph. Later, with his body ravaged by heart disease and drug abuse, he began playing supporting roles in lesser-known films. Family members remember him as a heavy drinker, living in his apartment in Santa Monica, estranged from his loved ones. The weight of Penn being overshadowed by his immensely talented brother only deepened his despair. Behind the raspy voice and aggressive performance lay a tired soul, desperate for recognition, but mired in addiction and illness. On January 24, 2006, Chris Penn was found dead in his Santa Monica home with an enlarged heart, the result of years of drug and alcohol abuse. He was only 40 years old. His net worth was only $1.5 million, a pittance compared to the fame he enjoyed. Many of Hollywood's biggest names attended his funeral, but all that remained was sadness for the talent that disappeared too soon. Doug McGrath as Spider Conway. At the age of 50, Doug McGrath starred in the movie The Rudder and the Bone, 1985. As Spider Conway, a brave and reckless miner, so determined and courageous that he was ready to sacrifice himself for justice. The role was small, but deeply realistic. Because McGrath himself has experienced hardship in real life, these experiences add depth to his performance. It was also his last collaboration with Clint Eastwood after appearing in a series of classic films. Doug McGrath was born on April 13, 1935 in Sydney, Nova Scotia, Canada. His childhood was not easy because his family struggled with poverty during the difficult post-war years. I grew up in a small town where the winter cold bit the houses. There was little coal for heating and often nothing on the table. Young Doug took on a variety of manual jobs to help his parents survive, from loading and unloading goods on the docks to helping in the sawmill. Those difficult years instilled in him a deep sense of inferiority, a feeling of being left behind by his peers, even after gaining recognition as an actor in the 1970 film The Strait of Mormon. Memories of his difficult childhood haunted him, leaving him with constant financial worries and uncertainty. This silent shadow made his life a constant struggle against the fear of poverty. In 2025, Doug McGrath will be 90 years old. He chose a simple life, away from the Hollywood spotlight, living discreetly, with an estimated net worth of just $500,000 after decades of acting. The image he left in the minds of viewers was not that of wealth, but of an ordinary artist, devoted to ordinary characters from the working class. Perhaps the most touching detail was his perseverance, his steadfastness after a lifetime of struggling with poverty. Jeffrey Weissman by Teddy Conway. At the age of 27, Jeffrey Weissman starred in Ruck and Bone, 1985, as Teddy Conway, Spider-Man's son, a naive but determined young man who fights for justice. Although a small role, it was a significant turning point, paving the way for his later appearances in major films, especially in the Back to the Future franchise, where he became famous as George McFly in the second and third films. Jeffrey Weissman was born on October 2, 1958 in Palo Alto, Washington. His career didn't go well, as what should have been his crowning moment in Back to the Future turned into a persistent burden. Taking on the role of Crispin Glover meant years of pressure. He was forced to wear heavy prosthetics to look like someone else, filmed upside down or moved backwards so viewers wouldn't notice the change. The audience remembered the character, but almost forgot his real name. Behind the scenes, Weissman had heard rumors that he was just a stunt double and not a real actor. The constant rejection of his talent and identity left deep psychological scars, turning fame into a burden rather than a joy. Today, at age 67, Jeffrey Weissman has retired from public life to devote himself to teaching acting and raising a family with his wife and 2 children. His net worth is estimated to be only $1 million, which is a modest sum considering the classic films he has starred in. But perhaps the most touching fact is that he is no longer chasing lost fame. Instead, he spent the last years of his life passing on his experiences to a younger generation, hoping to heal the pain of being left behind and prove that even in darkness, he can find his own light. Fran Ryan as Ma Blankenship. Fran Ryan played the tough but kind housewife Ma Blankenship in The Yellow Knight, 1985, at the age of 69. With her gruff exterior, husky voice, and stern gaze, she created a humble yet powerful character that helped portray the strength of the Old West in the face of adversity. It was one of her last memorable film performances, after decades of quietly playing tough but compassionate women. Fran Ryan was born on November 29, 1916 in Los Angeles, California. Her personal life, however, was marked by an almost unimaginable tragedy. In 1949, she married Walter Kenneth Wayne, the man she believed would finally bring her solace after years of loneliness. But in January 1951, her husband died in a plane crash, leaving her pregnant and giving birth to a son just 3 months later. Fate struck again in 1953, when she found new love with Howard Schaefer, and the horror happened again. A few months after their wedding, he too died in a plane crash. The wreck was buried for 15 years before it was exhumed, and his body was never found. This double loss made Fran's youth a painful journey, where happiness faded too quickly, leaving wounds that never healed. On January 15, 2000, Fran Ryan passed away in Burbank, California at the age of 83. She passed away after many years of solitude, leaving behind only the memories of a career spanning over 50 years and a modest net worth of approximately $1 million. She is remembered not for her wealth or fame, but for the strength with which she overcame unimaginable losses. Billy Drago as Deputy Mather. Billy Drago appeared in the movie The Pale Rider, 1985. At the age of 40, in the role of Deputy Mather, a suspicious and weak cop. Even in a supporting role, Drago unsettled the audience with his penetrating gaze and gaunt face, traits that became his trademark, often landing him roles as sinister villains. His appearance in Clint Eastwood's film paved the way for bigger projects. Most famously, his role as the assassin Frank Nitti in The Untouchables, 1987, which brought him worldwide fame. Billy Drago was born on November 30, 1945 in Hugoton, Kansas. His childhood was difficult, marked by poverty and youthful alienation. He tried journalism and then radio to make ends meet before finding his way into acting. But upon arriving in Hollywood, Drago faced other dark shadows. The pressure of playing a villain, combined with the chaos of life behind the scenes, led him to abuse substances. Arrests for drug trafficking have damaged his career and broken his spirit, making his cool on-screen demeanor mirror the turmoil in his real life. The marriage with actress Silvana Gallardo was once considered peaceful, but after her death in 2012, Drago fell into deep depression and suffered from loneliness for the rest of his life. On June 24, 2019, Billy Drago died in Los Angeles at the age of 73 as a result of a stroke. His net worth is estimated at just 1.5 million pounds, a pittance for a decades-long career. Still, there is some solace in his legacy. Unforgettable roles as villains, from Frank Nitti in The Untouchables to the demonic Barbas in Charmed, roles that both terrified and captivated audiences. Despite all the tragedy, loss, and struggle for survival, the cast of The Pale Rider, 1985, left us with a mixture of emotions, triumph, and despair. 40 years have passed, but they still live in the public's memory. Do you believe that their tragic fate is part of the curse that follows this legendary film? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so we can uncover more heartwarming stories hidden behind the glamour of Hollywood.